right, sixth garden tour of 2024. Again, starting with the pink lemonade blueberry, which still does not look good, but there is green, so I'm hopeful for next year. So once winter actually hits, I'll come in and kind of prune up all the dead stuff. It's going to take it way back. I won't get anything next year, but at least hopefully the plant will still be alive. And then we have these blueberries, which this one in the back, this one here, is really the best. If I hadn't tried to lift it because it was sinking down so much in the pot, it would have been a really big plant. I really messed it up when I did that. It would have been a big, nice producing plant, but because I messed it up, it went back to this. A lot of it died. So I planted another one, just like a little basically bare root one in there. But this variety, I need to find that variety again because that one has really been the best. And then we have the guava tree here, which is doing really well. And the Barbados cherry has just absolutely taken off. It's doing fantastic. And then we have the fig over here, which is doing really good as well. And then here are some of my favorite weeds. So I just think they look really cool. And then into bed one, which is the sweet potato, 3 different varieties of sweet potato all mixed together because I don't really remember. I didn't have a way of saying, this one's on this side, this one's on the other side. I just mixed them all together because they all look different when I harvest. So I figured I'd be able to figure it out then. And then we have the Jamaican sorrel in the back. And this is probably my best sorrel year. It's looking great. Especially that one there. It used to be kind of like undertaken by or overtaken by the sweet potato. But it pulled itself out and it's just thriving. And these are looking really great right behind it. Then if we come into bed 2, we have the Gomphrena here and here, which is doing really well. We have the Castro bean back there. It really never took off like I thought it would. I thought this was going to be like a 5 foot, 6 foot tall plant, and that it would provide shade for the rest of the bed, and it never really took off that way. We have the purple basil back there, which is really just purple streaked basil. A chocolate scotch bonnet there, not doing too well. A hollyhock back there that's doing okay. It's really supposed to thrive more next year in its second year. We have the shishito pepper there. This is a Daitol pepper back there, but it's not a pepper that I actually sought out to grow. It was just a free pack, so it doesn't look great, and I'm not too worried about it because I wasn't sure about it to begin with. It's a scotch bonnet, which is getting better now. I definitely wish it was bigger and would actually produce. I doubt I'm going to get anything out of it this year, and it's wrapped up in some Gomphrena. This is a purple tomatillo, which has fallen over. It's not really going to produce anything because its buddy was over here and died a long time ago. So I'm not too worried that this one's laying on its side because it's not going to do anything for me anyway. This is a pincushion, which I'm hoping will start to bloom some more now that we've cooled down a little bit. More Gomphrena here. It's just really been doing fantastic. Another pincushion. That one is a Spanish lavender. And that hollyhock back there has done fantastic. This is an old straw flower that I need to take out. Then if we come into bed 3, we have a blue sage, which is a fantastic plant. I love this plant. It's really pretty hardy. I mean, look at those blooms. Fantastic blooms, nice and hardy. And you can see it's sprouting from down there too. So I think I'm not going to do it because these are blooming and look great. But I think if this portion were to dry off, I would just cut it at the base and it would just spring back from down there. But since this portion looks great, I'm going to leave that alone and then just have it still spring back from down there, I guess. Oh, we almost skipped over this zinnia here. There's a little zinnia right there, and it looks like a little cosmos is starting over here. I did sprinkle cosmos seeds and zinnia seeds, honestly, in both of these, and just kind of like left it alone. Like if it sprouts, great. If it doesn't, oh well. But it's just all dependent on if we get rain or not. And then this bed, it's kind of turned into an experiment. So I put the sweet potato, you'll remember from last time, and there used to be a Mexican sunflower here, but that one's gone now. And so I put another Mexican sunflower there. This Thai basil was basically hiding behind the Mexican sunflower. And then because this bed has been pretty tough, I wanted to do kind of like a cover crop type situation. So I sprinkled a lot of radishes. Now, I actually didn't mean to sprinkle the radishes there because the sweet potatoes are growing on the ground and radishes grow on the ground. So that wasn't actually ideal, but just throughout the bed I sprinkled radish and I sprinkled carrot seeds and stuff that would go deep and kind of break it up, just like the sweet potato is going to do as well. And then there are also a few bean seeds throughout this too, because bean plants or legumes really help to feed the soil. So those are in there as well. So this bed is just a whole mix of everything that's mostly for protecting and feeding the soil. And then we have another bean plant there. And if we come into bed 4, we have a carrot here, which is probably ready for me to harvest, along with a calendula, and then the zinnia that has escaped, and the grape that looks fantastic, climbing all the way up. I took down the cucumber that was on here. I have a couple more that in a week or two I'll plant out, more cucumbers. That's another zinnia. This is the best looking Scotch bonnet tree, basically, that I have. It had blooms on it a few weeks ago, and then they just disappeared. And so now this is kind of like round 3 of it trying to produce for me. But there's a little bloom right there. So hopefully it has time to bloom and produce. But it is trying its best. And I'm going to try and overwinter it somehow if we don't get enough time for it to really produce. Well, either way, if the plant looks good, by the time it becomes winter, I will try and protect it and overwinter it. This is the Turkish pepper here, which this one has been a little trooper. It hasn't really grown massively, but it does produce pretty consistently. Oh, almost skipped over these guys. We have some scallion, some Jamaican scallion. I planted some sweet peas, which these are like flower sweet peas. They're having the hardest time actually holding on though, and actually staying where I want them to climb up this and then bloom. And this is the Martini Lavender Agastache here, which was bigger, died back, and sprouting back. And then a self-seeded kale here. Another bean there. A massive huckleberry from the other bed that just kind of invades this and hides 2 more peppers that are back here. This one's a jalapeno. This one I'm not sure about. I forgot to label it. So we'll see when it produces, if I can, get it to produce. And then the jalapeno back there. And then also hidden under this huckleberry is a strawberry and a calendula. This is a sweet bell pepper here. We have basil, another sweet bell pepper, and a Scotch bonnet. It's hidden back there as well. Then if we come into like bed 6 now, bed 6, we have lemongrass back there, which I'm going to do another cut on soon to dry for the winter. We have Cuban oregano here. We have a eggplant that's not doing great, but I mean it's trying. That looks like it might become a bloom maybe right there. but a zinnia that's like, hey, if you're not going to grow, I'm going to use you to grow over. So that's what the zinnia is doing. We have another calendula there, basil back there. We have Swiss chard along the side. This is a jalapeno in the middle, and it's doing much better than it was. Like in the heat of the summer, it was like here. And now just the little bit of cool down that we've had, it's definitely grown up and looking much healthier. This is another calendula. And so if we move over this direction, the wildflower meadow is pretty much down. I'm going to cut it back soon-ish, but I do still see like bees and stuff in there, so there are still blooms, so I feel bad cutting it just yet. And then back there, which I'm not going to go back there right now, is the like perennial area. And these plants have done really well because they have not gotten any supplemental water since I planted them, and they've just like either survived or not is kind of what I was going for, because I wanted to see what was going to be, you know, tough enough to survive back there. And they're actually doing pretty well. Hard to tell from here, but the catmint in particular has done really well, and the salvias have done fantastic. Now that we have gotten a little bit of rain, they're definitely coming more alive, but back there they're essentially were planted, watered, cardboard was put down, and mulch put down on top, and that was it. And then also back here, hard to tell over the high weeds, but right in that area there is the pomegranate, which has done really well. Again, 100% on its own, no water from me. Just whenever it rains, it got water, otherwise no water. And it is in like a little mini raised bed out here, and it's been there this year. This October will be 3 years, so it's kind of really established itself now, I think. And it got some of my homemade compost earlier this year as well, like a few months back. But other than that, no attention to it, and it's done really well just on its own, and it didn't suffer at all through all the heat, even though I didn't water it. And then over here we have some volunteer leeks there, and lots of raspberries, or blackberries, I'm sorry, ebony blackberries, that I need to figure out a better trellis method for them. I think I want to just keep them kind of in this middle section here, so I can still plant things like the tomatoes along the actual trellis, but I need to figure that out still, because right now they're just kind of wild. No production yet. This is technically their second year, but their first year of actually like becoming established. Last year it was just literally a twig when I planted it. And then here we have some strawberries. I am pretty shocked that these strawberries are still alive. Like, did not expect them to actually make it this long, so it's great that they have. And then some stalk, which I'm really surprised is still alive as well. And then, so that was bed 7. This is bed 8. So we have the Korean mint here, which I cut off the parts that had browned. Just cut it back to let these guys really spring. And then more scallion. There's basically scallion in pretty much every bed. Some basil, some tomatoes. These are tomatoes from my original planting in the spring. I did not restart seeds like I probably should have. This one looks great though. This one, not so much. But if we look over there, there is a tiny little cherry tomato. And then here we have the papaya tree, which is actually really taken off just in like the last couple weeks. It will not survive the winter, so I'm hoping it continues to take off, produces fruit, all that before winter happens, because this one would be a hard one to try and protect, because it is going to get much bigger before winter comes. And then here is another huckleberry taking over, more basil, and there's some snapdragon flowers in there as well. And there's also another one of those Turkish peppers in here. You can see the pepper. So they're really interesting because they're long and then they curl. Like that one's super tightly curled. This has also been a good one of producing for me. And then there's zinnias woven in between. And then here in our next bed, we have more of that lavender martini, agastache there. Have some chives. This is another snapdragon. Some basil. This is the dahlia. I actually just pinned it up because it was laying outside the bed, so that's why all the blooms were like kind of growing sideways. I just pinned it up. Hopefully it'll self-correct. Here we have a rose climbing up there. Have another calendula down here. This is a shishito pepper, and there is a pepper on it back there. And another very, very large huckleberry. More basil, more zinnias, and the other side of the rose. And that is that's the end of this month's garden tour.